everybody. It's so good to see you. Hey, some of my favorite people in the whole world. What a surprise. It's good to see you. Let's see. Normally I have Allie here to admit everybody, but since we've got a guest here today, I told her she didn't need to come. So I am going to be managing chat and letting in participants and introducing our guest and heckling. All of these things at the same time. Watch it happen. It's going to be so good. I am thrilled everybody is here today. As you know, we have a very special guest with us, and I am really eager to hear what he has to say. But first, all sorts of wonderful announcements of good stuff that is going on in the world that I want to make sure to share with you. We have welcomed 2 more tax pros to our community that are trusted colleagues that you can refer your clients to. So not only do we now have Marit Bermud, Katie Healy, Andrea McDonald, and Jane Watkins, we also have Nadia Rodriguez and Jana Etienne. So welcome, everyone. We are thrilled that you get it when it comes to working with tax-ready bookkeepers. So if you see one of them answering a question, I promise you they are the real deal. I don't know if any of them are here with us today. If you are, feel free to come off mute and say hi. Don't think any of them are here with us today. Scrolling through all my little faces. So yeah, if you see any of them in circle answering questions, they're the real deal. They're amazing. And we're really, really, really lucky to have them. And so if you are looking for tax pros who get what we're doing in this community to collaborate with, these are some incredible people that I would start with. Next up, this Friday, we are having a special study hall where I'm going to walk through tips for filling out the top 100 ProAdvisor application, which is due by March 3rd. So whether you were nominated or not, anyone can apply. And it's absolutely worth the effort because a lot of people get overwhelmed by the amount of information that you have to share. And they get partway through the application and they give up. And we're not going to do that. Because if you make it all the way through this application, your chances of making the list are actually way better than you would think. And by virtue of the fact that you're in Ask a CPA, I know that you deserve to be on that top 100 list because you are making your dedication to continued learning clear, and Ask a CPA sessions count toward your education credits for the application. So please join us on Friday. We're going to be there from 3 to 4:30 Central working on our applications together. I've got tips for everybody. I'm going to go through the whole thing tomorrow on my own application so that I can make notes ahead of time. Pop in anytime during that hour-and-a-half period and let's work on these together. So I'm gonna drop. I'm so used to Allie dropping my links in there that I forgot that I have to do my own today. So there it is. I was recently on Lynn Talbot's Better Bookkeeper podcast. I don't know if anybody has ever heard this podcast before. I had not heard of it. But man, I really ended up liking her, and we had such a good conversation. We talked about imposter syndrome in bookkeeping and fear and confidence and what it takes to push through the fear and create a successful bookkeeping firm. So I am sticking a couple links in here. One of them is a link to the YouTube, and one of them is a link to her page where she has at the bottom of the page all of the different ways that you can listen to the podcast. I really liked her. I thought she was great. It was a really wonderful experience for me.
What if working from home didn't have to mean?
I think that somebody is not on mute, and I don't know who it is. People, we like doing cool things. One of my favorite sections, the WAVE conference in Seattle is happening on May 15th. And I am actually going to be having a birthday party the following day at my favorite bar from when I used to live there. And I was asked to be a wave maker. which means a mentor at their group discussion. And so I had already bought a ticket because I am really excited about this conference. It's led by Erin Pohan, who is one of our members in Ask a CPA. And I decided I'd prefer to pay it forward and gift it to someone in the Ask a CPA community. And so I'm very excited to share that Hope Brown is the winner of the ticket. Woohoo! I cannot wait to attend this conference with her. We always have such a great time at conferences together. And I know this one in particular is going to be absolutely incredible. Erin wanted to make sure that everybody in Ask a CPA would get a discount. So I'm going to toss that in the chat as well. For $50 off of your ticket, you can use the discount code AskACPA. Wanda, I see you are asking, is there a list on Ask a CPA of the tax pros accepting new clients? I didn't realize you had people who would do this and I didn't catch all the names. No worries whatsoever. There isn't yet, but there is a post that somebody made that like has some of them on there, but that made me think I should probably put that in the resources section. So I am going, I'll call it coming soon, under construction. And Heather Dibely is saying, Wave Seattle's amazing. Erin Pohan does such a great job of putting on this micro conference. And Heather, do you want to come off mute and tell us what you're going to be doing at the conference? Because I know there's something really special that just got announced.
Well, I'm not going to be there because I'm going to be visiting my son who is in Florence, Italy.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so my business partner, Kim Kelleher, is going to be on a panel for partnerships. Kim and I joined forces about a year and a half ago. And yeah, so super excited. I'm so sad I'm missing it, but it's
I'm
going to be
sad you're
super fun.
missing it. I forgot that you were, that's right. But hey, Florence sounds pretty freaking cool. So I don't know. I would probably pick Florence too. But I'm excited about Kim's panel. It's going to be great. Kim's also an Ask a CPA member, and we're thrilled that she's part of her. She was actually member number 1. She was the first person who signed up for Ask a CPA. Also, I wanted to say that I am joining Financial Sense and 3 other educators in the bookkeeping world for a thing that they're doing called Replace the Bottleneck, Reclaim Control. And it is a 5-day email course plus a live expert panel that is for bookkeeping firm owners. I'm going to be teaching day 3 of the email course, which is, not surprisingly, focused on strengthening standards and communication between bookkeeping and tax teams. Sound familiar? So I will be doing that, and I will be on their expert panel on February 24th at 3 p.m. Eastern, which is about sharing how strong systems create trust across teams. And we're going to answer questions that are specific to people's firms. There are only 160 seats available, so you do not want to miss out. The whole thing's free, and it's going to be great. I'm sure of it. Financial Sense always puts out super high quality content, if I do say so myself. So I just dropped the registration link in the chat. And all you do is you register once and it gets you both the email course and it registers you to attend the live session. And if you want to read a little bit more about it, I've got my LinkedIn post right there that I also tossed into chat. Let's see what else is left on my list. The most recent recordings, we got great feedback on the recent session on depreciation. The deep dive, that recording is not up yet, but we will try to get it posted by Monday. And then, last but not least, before we get to our special guest, here are the upcoming events. We've got study hall this Friday, as I mentioned before. And then on the 25th, we have a Q&A. And immediately afterwards, we have our very first live orientation. So you can come for one or both of those things. I'm going to be posting the March events soon. I was working on the plans for that yesterday, and I'm super excited because our special guest next month is going to be Paul Heyman from RC Reports to teach us about reasonable compensation and specifically like show us some of the product. And then in the next month, our special guest is going to be a woman named Janine Roosh, who is going to teach us about how to develop our personal brand and do marketing, which I know that most of us are not. It's not our strength. So I'm really excited about the upcoming things that we have. Speaking of being excited about upcoming things that we have going on, I have a very good friend here with us today, Mr. Rob Hamilton, who I met on the dance floor at a conference. Not surprisingly, he loves dancing possibly more than I do. He's certainly better at it than I am. He can do
I
the
don't think that's
worm.
true at all, Nancy.
Oh, man.
I can't do the worm.
Now, I
Yeah.
think that you will probably remember the time when we were dancing together. I think it was Intuit Connect, and I had a big feather
A
boa
boa.
on,
Yeah.
and the boa came loose, and I tripped on it and went flying across the floor. I don't think that's ever happened to you.
It has not,
Uh-huh.
but we kept on dancing. That was the
We did
most
keep on
important
dancing.
part,
It's true.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
that you just keep going. That's the
I might have
that's
had
the most important
a
part.
bruised butt the next day. Well, speaking of dancing, I know I want you to start us off with the story that you were telling me during our
Well,
prep.
I just thought it would make sense for this group. Also, hi everyone. I actually recognize a couple of you, so I think I've probably met in different places over the years of being in and around the like accounting and bookkeeping profession. But so hi to all of you that I've kind of like met or we've interacted with before. But so we do like weekly, like bi-weekly webinars as digits. And I always, and I do this whenever I'm speaking at events too, like Whitney Houston, I Want to Dance with Somebody is my like basically walk-on song. It's my jam. I love it. And someone in the chat was like, I want to dance with digits. And I was like, oh, I'm doing the dancing accountant podcast. You're like doing something with Nancy this next week. I should make a song for dancing with digits. And so I went to my good friend GPT and a couple other apps and made something, and I wanted to share with everybody. I don't know if we're interested, but I thought it could be a
We're
fun way to dive
interested.
into
Does
this.
everybody want to hear Rob's song? I want to dance with digits. Yes.
All right.
Yes, that's a yes. That's a
I
super solid yes.
here okay, here we go. Let me see what I can do here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're getting some
Share
love in the
computer
chat.
audio. All right. Are we ready for this?
Yeah. Turn it up.
I need to preface like we need dance moves from people.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I know we're on Zoom, but like I gotta see it. So here
All
we
right.
go.
I'm ready.
Oh no, I need to start it over. Oh no, there we go.
Used to live by the ticking clock, month and pressure never stop. Spreadsheets stacking to the sky, always asking how and why. But something changed when you walked in, clean ledger, confidence within. Now the numbers fall in place, like they're moving to the base. No more chasing paper trails, no more detail, no more detail overload. And I run in it up, lifting every heavy load. I wanna dance with digits, let automation take control. Yeah, I wanna dance with digits, watch the balance sheets unfold. Dance with digits, no more stress to figure out. I wanna dance with digits, let the smart tech work it out.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought that was fun. So, who
God,
cares?
I
Who wants
love
to
it.
see a product when we can just like dance
We
this
could just,
music all the
yeah.
time?
Okay, there's
So,
so much love in the chat right now. That's amazing. True banger, Rob. That was
oh my
awesome.
God. All right.
Ah, thank you.
Yeah, that was fun.
Veronica's like, I needed that. Totally.
We all needed that. You know, you
We
got to
did.
take some levity in the day. You know, we
I
got a
mean,
lot
dude, we
going
just
on.
lived through January. Come on,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and you know, preface to for getting everything done coming up. Actually, why did
Mhm.
I even bring that up? We'll not even
Yeah, we
bring
were
up
having
that.
fun there for a second, Rob.
Yeah,
Thanks.
ouch. I'm sorry. This was a bad segue. But
Do you
cool. Well,
feel like
Nancy,
showing us
how best we want to start? What's the right way to do this? Should I
why
just
don't you
dive right in?
tell us what the heck digits is and why do we care? What is digits? Why do we care?
I love it. So I'll give a little bit of a background just in case I'm sure folks have heard from us over the years in different iterations of like us and our product. So, and obviously I think it's probably like very clear. I think Nancy, you build this, but like all these things are more fun if it's interactive and people are asking questions. So feel free throughout, if you do have questions, to chime in, throw it in the chat, Q&A or whatever. And it just makes these things more engaging and fun. But Digit's actually been around for 7 years. We're not necessarily new to automating workflows within bookkeeping and accounting. I was the first like non-engineering person to join the company 6 years ago. So my role is iterated over the time, but for the most part, what I do all day is I talk to accounting firms, I talk to operators of businesses and financial professionals on all the different ways that we can work together to automate basically the tedium, the stuff that you're not necessarily wanting to do in your day-to-day, and how we layer that into the product to take more and more of that kind of work off your plate.
So it's
So
a
what
it's a full GL program, right?
Yeah,
Like
so that's what, yeah. So basically, like over the course of that time, so it takes a really long time to build a full general ledger. Um, we've
turns out,
we've built,
who could have
especially if you're trying
predicted
to
that?
compete with the 30-year, behemoth monopoly that exists out there. But we build what's called the AGL, which is the world's first agentic general ledger. And so I mentioned this, but really we want to automate all the tedium in accounting with AI baked right into the ledger. So you don't need to bolt on a bunch of other tools on top of your legacy system just to do the month-end close. So
Okay.
we build all of it directly into the product and then automate things like the booking of transactions, reconciliations. Soon we'll automate schedule automation and things along those lines as well, and a bunch of quality control in the books. So all those things get baked right in, and the tedium that takes you a long time at the month-end close then is basically just done for you. And so obviously we've launched our first iteration of the product about a year ago, and then to like operators of businesses, and then at Scaling New Heights last year, so even less than a year ago, we launched in a more official capacity to accounting firms, and with kind of like an accounting partnership program and a bunch of different ways that we work with firms as well. And so since then, we now have hundreds of accounting firms using us with all of their clients, and thousands of downstream, even operators of businesses as well, that through our partnership program, we like find operators that are doing like a bad job or have questions or need help, and we marry them with like the accountants that work together with our product as well. So a lot of different ways we partner with the profession and the industry, but really our goal is to keep building more and more of this functionality to help bridge into this new world, because I think there's a lot of like mud in the water today around like we have AI and we have AI and we have AI, and
Oh
like what does
yeah.
that
I
actually
mean, when
mean and
Intuit
how do you
first
navigate that?
announced that they were putting AI into QuickBooks Online, I was like, oh, good. So it can get messed up even faster. Like it's not, it didn't seem like a good thing, and I'm not excited about it. And so
Yeah.
show us your product and tell us why I should not be worried about the fact that my clients are going to go in and try to do their own books and make a total mess of everything, because that's what I always worry about the most.
Yeah, and if I'm honest, there's probably multiple things to unpack, even
Hmm.
just about that statement there, Nancy, too. One thing I'll say before I dive into the product itself is to just kind of like talk really high level, because this can get, obviously, if people want to go into the technical details, I certainly can. But there is a reason why QuickBooks AI is lackluster. And part of the reason for that is actually like a technical architecture difference between someone like Digits and someone like QuickBooks or any of the other legacy ledgers, even like a Xero NetSuite has the same problem, is because their technical architecture was built 30 years ago, they're basically just a text database in the cloud.
Uh-huh.
So when Uber comes in as like a transaction, they just see UBER. They see a text string. There's no
Yeah.
like smarts really built into that. And there's no ability to see like, oh, this is typically booked in the same category as Lyft, or there's a difference between Uber Eats and Uber, and all these different types of pieces. It's
Oh my
just this.
God, does anybody get that? When clients try to DIY and all of the Ubers and the Uber Eats are in the same ones, that drives me nuts. Yes.
Yeah,
Good
and
example.
so and and so with that, like when Digit sees a transaction come in, we use what's called an object-oriented database and what a semantic vector graph model below the covers. Now, I don't mean to be too technical there. Basically, what that means is every aspect of a transaction is like a known entity within digits. So like the date, the amount, the vendor, the memo, like even each text field within the memo, all are things that we can see basically in this like n-dimensional space, how it relates to other things in the product.
That's
So we can
fascinating.
see like, hey, Uber and Lyft are typically booked in the same place together, and this is how they're typically booked. Or hey, these transactions that are over this amount are typically like a fixed asset over a materiality threshold. We can flag those and deal with them appropriately. Or you typically book this vendor into this dimension, all the above. So all these different ways that these pieces come together lets us analyze things and break them out in different ways, whether it's Google Ads versus Google Cloud versus, Google Workspace. Like all of
Right.
those, like memos, are actually different, and we differentiate between those things and learn by your actions over time. And so those things, it's not that Intuit isn't capable of ever building that, but it is a bit of a challenge, I would imagine, on their end to basically rip out an entire tech architecture for their entire product
Right.
in order to serve that appropriately. So it's like there's a part of me that almost like feels for them, like that is a hard challenge
Yeah.
for them to
Yeah.
approach.
No, that's fair. That's totally
But
fair.
yeah.
Mhm.
Anyway, that was probably a long-winded intro to the entire product, but we can dive in and I'll show. And I'm just going to walk through basically like an onboarding into month-end close process in the product. So I'll do my best to talk about all the different features and functionality. So as you have questions, feel free to layer them in. I might not answer like your specific question immediately, but I'll get to all of
And
them
feel free
as we go.
to, throw the questions in chat and I can moderate, or as everybody knows, you're always welcome to come off mute if you just want to say, hey, what's that there? And
Absolutely.
I am curious, while you're getting ready to do this, can we see in the chat who is already using digits? Is there anybody attending today who's already actively using digits? Okay, yep. Anne
Annie,
and
hell yeah.
Anne and Donna.
Oh, Donna's here. Hey,
Yeah,
Donna.
awesome. So we've got two people at least who
Rob.
are actively using
Good
it,
to
and I
see
know
you.
we've got a bunch of people who are, hey Donna, that's good to see you. Yay. Um, And then we've got a bunch of people who I know are digits curious and have,
Yeah.
fiddled around with it a little bit, but aren't actively
Digit's
using it with
curious.
clients.
That's hilarious. That's great. Well, we can answer any and all questions and dive in, and then obviously Anne and Donna, feel free to like layer in your own experience in certain areas too. Not everything has been solved yet. There's going to be areas that we're still kind of like nailing down, and so the positive and the negative are good from a feedback perspective, and we can talk through all those things together. So cool. So with that, I'll dive in. And then Nancy, I know there were some pre-submitted questions too, so feel free to like layer. It's hard for me to have that screen up with this too, so
Sure,
feel
no
free to
problem.
layer
I'll
those
I'll go
in
grab those.
as we go. But as an
Yep.
accounting firm, when you come into Digits, you will actually initially land on this dashboard, which is more of like a one-to-many type of dashboard within the product. I only have one demo client, but it's worth noting that when you come in, you create your accounting firm account as like an accounting partner on Digits, you get your accounting firm for free. So you can come in and link it, and that is like possible. You get all the features and functionality for your accounting firm, but you also get a demo client. And this is like can be provisioned. That's what I'm actually going to demo from. And you'll get all the same data functionality. You can play around with it, delete data, upload things, just see how it behaves right here. We also link out to our Digits Academy, which is built out by Megan Reed, who runs all of our kind of like accountant enablement. Donna, you've gotten to know Megan pretty well over the last couple months as well. And so we're constantly building out training programs. And then we do also this literally just launched today. But if you click on register for training, we actually do a daily webinar series like office hours now, so that people can come in and get their questions answered and all the above. And so this is happening for an hour a day. Today we had like 12 firms come in and we answered all their questions as we went. And it was like really, really awesome and have like great engagement from the community. So that was very cool. But
Awesome.
in any case, everyone will hop in here and I'm going to click into my demo client. and you land on more of a visually inclined dashboard around the business. So this is like a default over time, or what you can do is actually curate this for any one of your clients as well. We can talk about kind of like editing of dashboards and stuff later, but you're probably asking like, huh, this is pretty neat. That looks nice. How do I get my data in here? So that ends up being the first step that most people need to take. I don't have a way to walk through exactly what it looks like, but it all starts with your connections. So there's multiple different ways to start. The first one just to think about is like, where is my history coming from, and is there history for this business? And so when you think about that, you're like, they either basically have QuickBooks or another ledger, or they don't. And so if they have QuickBooks Online, you can actually just connect your QBO file. You set a cutover date, which is basically like, when's the last time I finished reconciliations, pretty much like within this client file. And then from there, we'll pull in all the data as a one-time pull of up to that date. And the key thing to know about that is whatever data that pulls in is actually training the AI on how it's going to handle real-time connections when you connect the real-time connections in.
Okay, that's
So
interesting.
it's very important to not connect a QBO file that has bad accounting in it. So like, we haven't built the functionality to basically say like, oh, this QBO file is a dumpster fire. Do you want us to fix it for you? That's not quite where it is. So if you have a new client you brought in and they're like, oh, my Uncle Joey, like he's real good at accounting and he did my books for the last 3 years. And then you look at the books, you're like, wow, Uncle Joey has no idea what he's talking about or what he's doing. Like, you don't want to connect that books, because what will happen is you go connect the bank accounts and credit cards and it'll reflect what Uncle Joey did,
Right.
not what you think will happen. And so at that point, you have a decision to make. You either clean up what's in QuickBooks and then connect it later, or you can just start fresh in digits and do basically back reconciliations over time. And that's what we've seen a lot of tax professionals do who are using digits, especially for like larger cleanups, is instead of like pulling in the mess of a QBO file, just start fresh, link all your bank accounts, credit cards, payroll systems, and we'll pull in up to 2 years of data from that institution, and
Now,
our
when you
AI will
mentioned
take a
tax
first
pros are
pass.
doing that, I think what you're saying is that this would be like basically using it as if it were write-up software, where they're
Correct.
just like, I just
Exactly.
need an accurate tax return, boom, and it does 1 or 2 years
Correct.
right at a time. Okay, got it. Very cool.
Exactly. So they're using it for write-up software, and we've also seen bookkeepers who have partnerships with tax accountants, which I think kind of like fits a lot of this market as
Hmm.
well, using it for the same thing of like, hey, this tax accountant's great, but they keep having more and more people who are coming in, and I don't know how I keep up or whatever it may be. We've also seen digits serve in that use case here as well, where I don't need to share the financials with the downstream client. We actually have like partner pricing tiers that fit that write-up SKU as well, which funny enough, Nancy, we talked at length about it like 10 p.m. one night over email, that you helped us like flesh out and
That's
solidify a
right.
little bit.
That's
So
right.
I appreciate your time and attention on that. But ultimately what this looks like is, okay, I've made a decision on what to do with my historical data. I'm either bringing it in or I'm not. At that point, I link my credit cards, bank account, payroll systems. We're constantly adding more and more things here. And I think this is going to be here. Yeah, we, as of this morning, launched with ADP, Paychex, Sequoia One, all of the otherwise missing payroll providers
Hmm.
that we had before. We'd previously, and we still do, partner very closely with Gusto. And so we know them very well and have a very deep integration with them. But we obviously have all work with folks who use different payroll systems. So now all of those are supported in here to bring in kind of the history and all the above. So you can bring all those in. We do connect with Bill.com and Ramp directly and Revenue. So there's a lot more, and then 10,000 banks and cards. So you go connect all those things and we will bring in all of the data. And this is basically the inflection point where things start to be a bit different between the workflows in digits and the workflows in like legacy software. Is there isn't a bank feed in digits at all. So when you come in and you book those or bring in those transactions, we're just going to automatically book them into the ledger if there's high confidence that we know what that is. And the way that digits ultimately works is that for every single company, and the reason why bringing in bad data from QBO is a bad idea is that every single company you bring in, we actually train a machine learning model on that individual company and the accounting that is done for that company.
Wow.
And so every action that you take in the product, we learn from instantaneously. And so we'll do all the matching. We'll bring in like, hey, this matches something in ramp, all the above. But as we get down into like an expense category like airfare, you can start to see kind of like we'll go in and pull in all the vendors, all their logos. It makes it a little bit more easy to understand. Was this booked in the right place? All the above. And so we're going to take a first pass if we have like high confidence in what these ultimately are supposed to be. And especially, let's say you start, if you, oh, Nancy.
Yeah, I have a question about that. So for example, I see something on there that says meals. If a client were doing this, they would make a big mess because they would put everything to meals and they don't understand that some of those things were actually firm function, right? Some of
Yep.
them, there are a lot of things where it's not the vendor itself is not necessarily going to determine what it is. There's some decision making. Another one is when you see a charity, it's not necessarily a charitable contribution. It could be advertising and promo, right? Like
Yep.
there are a lot of subtleties. How do you handle that kind of thing?
That's great. And this is where the training part of it comes in, right? And so let's say in this case, this is Uber Eats and it's meals. And let's say that next month, an Uber Eats transaction comes in and it's a different category.
Mhm.
You'll mark that here as a different category. And what that will do is it'll ask you at that time, hey, do you want to change your past ones to this as well, or do you want to keep them as they were? And if you have a vendor that is booked to multiple categories, what that's going to do is reduce the confidence threshold that we know what it is.
Mm,
And
okay,
so in those cases, it will then surface those to you through the inbox. And
great.
so at the outset, we might not make that distinction immediately. But moving forward, as you train the model and say different things about where different vendors go, we'll know more about what needs to be surfaced versus what doesn't, and where that like human intervention needs to happen. And so in this world, like if you bring in from QBO, we'll have a better idea of where you have historically booked any given vendor. Now, that doesn't mean there isn't training involved or more that you need to do, but over time, you're going to change more and more of these things. We'll learn instantaneously. The things that we don't know, we will flag to you into your inbox. So we'll just look at this US Patent and Trademark Office as an example. What we're saying is we don't know if this is taxes or legal, but also if this is a brand new company, we'll help you build your chart of accounts live as you see transactions that maybe need to go different places. And so what this is saying is like we've also seen this book towards intangibles in other companies. Like if you want to create that account, you can and book it
I
there.
am so thrilled that this is the example that you are using because we just did a deep dive on depreciation last
I love it.
week and we talked about how intangibles are amortized. And so when I saw the patent thing come up, I'm like, oh, I bet it can't tell whether it's actually supposed to be an
Mhm.
asset as opposed to an expense. But in fact, they've seen enough of these from other companies that they're like, we know that this gets treated weirdly sometimes. And repairs and maintenance is another
Mhm.
example where often repairs and maintenance is actually leasehold improvements or some other kind of
Yep.
asset. How does it handle, and you may not know the answer to this one, but how does it handle knowing whether something's a startup cost and needs to go on the balance sheet? I
Mhm.
would imagine it would do a really poor job with that
Yeah, I
because
mean,
it's
this is the
not
kind of
typical.
thing that is where the company level training comes in,
Hmm.
where it's like when you first started up this company, you're right, we might not know that. Now, we might see that transactions from that specific vendor historically have been potentially booked differently. So that might come up in your suggested list here. But
Okay.
it's in those cases where we might not have a high enough confidence to know. And so we would either lean on you to book that or just learn from how you've booked it
And
over
then if
time.
you've got like, a vendor, Joe Jim Bob, like that was ever
He sounds
anybody's
like he
name.
does good work, so
Yeah, right. It's like, oh, that could be the guy who, cleans the windows, or that could be a guy who,
yeah.
is a contractor doing repairs and maintenance. It could be any number of things. That's just one where it's not even guessing. It's not even going to guess because it's just Joe Jim Bob.
Yep. Um, Obviously, like we might not know that immediately, but again, we will do our best to find out. So our agents will go, and part of our process is to have them go Google these vendors if we don't know who they are.
Oh, that's nice.
And so basically, like how this works is like you could think of our models as like a layer cake,
Mm-hmm.
where you have the company model at first, where we see a transaction and we're like, have we seen this before within this company? And if it's yes, and we're confident we know what it is, it'll book it, right? But
Yeah.
then it'll default back. And this is something that we have, not every firm automatically gets access to this. We have like kind of like professional tiers of the partner program and things like that we can talk through, but there's a firm model. So if you have like over 30 clients on Digits, we can actually train a model across your clients and basically say, have we seen this within any of your clients? Which is especially helpful if you work within a vertical or an industry where you have everyone in the same thing. They might have like a vendor that is consistent. We'll say like, did this book within how you typically book this in your firm? Then the next level is a global model, which is like across all of the over $1 trillion in small business spend that is a part of our model. Have we ever seen this transaction before?
Mm-hmm.
And if so, then we'll learn from that and we'll book it in here. Now, if we get to that point where we're like, hey, this is a new bakery in Rhode Island that my client was flying to and have never heard of, what we do is basically build a dossier about everything we know about that transaction. So we'll go Google it. We try and figure out if we know what it is. Similar things that your team would do, but instead of you spending 5-10 minutes trying to research this and figure out how to do it, it's like our AI agent doing it, and they're doing it 24 hours a day rather than you having to kind of like book time to do it. So we will then have a dossier that then helps us basically give confidence about how we think we want to book it.
So when you're just starting with a client in Digits and it doesn't have your company level training yet, and it feels confident. I mean, like if I were hiring a junior bookkeeper, there's going to be a junior bookkeeper who doesn't trust anything that they do. And then there's going to be the one that it just thinks they're right about everything. And, neither of those is your perfect junior bookkeeper.
Yep.
You want somebody who's like, I'm pretty sure that this is it, and I have agency, so I'm going to handle this on my own.
Yep.
And then you have ones where they're like, oh, okay, I'm not quite sure what this is. I tend to think, and I describe QuickBooks Online is a very, very stupid, angry toddler that like doesn't know anything about where something should be booked.
Yeah.
Sounds like Digits has got a lot of ability where it's probably going to be a lot more accurate than QuickBooks for the various reasons you've mentioned. But how can I go back and review stuff where it had high confidence?
You're
It booked
getting
it.
ahead of me, Nancy.
Oh, okay, good.
Now, granted, I
Keep going.
part of what you're saying we do not do, and there's reasons for that. There isn't
Okay.
like a, hey, let me go review all the confidence thresholds of all of this. We just we know whether or not we're confident what models it hit, and we're going to surface those things to you. But I'll get to the review side of that because that's
Okay.
pretty important about this whole workflow, and
Yeah.
it's good for you to flag it. In this
Fabulous.
case, like I'm going to say this is legal, and I'm going to hit save. And what this is going to do, especially in a cleanup use case, is it's going to flag that we detected 2 similar transactions. So I'm going to go review those. So especially in a cleanup use case, like, hey, I pulled in 2 years of data from my bank. Like, how do I work through all of these? We're basically saying like, hey, there's 2 other similar transactions. Do you want to treat these the same as the other one? And I can choose to or not and hit update. And you'll see these flow out of my inbox. From there, and I think this was one of the pre-questions, there's this call membership that came in. I'm like, I don't know what this is. And so in this world, I can type at client, what is this? Or let me use Whisper. I don't know if you've all used Whisper, but it's incredible. What is this? Can you attach a receipt? And I'm going to hit send. Whisper Flow is this company. You just press a button on your keyboard and it like perfectly dictates everything you say. And if you say like, I use dictation on my computer already, it's like it's a million times better and you should just go use it. So anyway, that's a side note.
I'm
of like
putting
what
that
AI
on my
tools,
list.
what AI tools do I use? But anyway, this will then ping your client and say, and they'll get an inbox item with your question. And at that point, they can come in and respond to you, attach a receipt, all the above to give you the context of what might be going on there and handle that client communication directly in Digits. And then when you view the transaction, when they respond, that receipt will show up on the transaction line. Your context of the conversation will show up here of their response and their answer. And you'll also be able to see kind of like an activity log if you changed this or how it got booked and everything on the individual transaction as well. So all that then flows through and you can deal with it appropriately. So that's the inbox. we've talked about kind of like a lot of the logic behind how it works, all the above. So let's just assume that now, hey, I know I've like got everything into the ledger, but now I need to do some reconciliations. And so how reconciliations works is right now, it depends on the bank, but we basically get bank statements in a couple different ways. You can either drag and drop them on this, and we'll like read the bank statement and attach them to the right account, or you drag and drop them onto the account. You could also forward them directly to the email address that I think you all saw here. Every client has a custom email address within Digits. And so you can have your client forward that email address, and then they can send bank statements to you every month. Or some banks, not all of them, it's more of an API limitation. We automatically gather the statement via API. And so in that world, in this case, I'll just open April. Here we have a Mercury bank statement, and here's all of our transactions in the ledger. You can see that we automatically validate via kind of a pixel bounding box. It's hard to see over Zoom, but you can see it kind of moving. So you can easily spot check, hey, is every transaction there? In this case, there was nothing to action on, like everything was good to go and it was finalized. And so you didn't really have to do anything. Now, in the case that a bank statement comes in and there are things that are going on, we'll go through each of these flags and deal with appropriately. So here's our bank statement, but it's basically saying like, hey, I'm not finding this transaction. So it's highly likely that it hasn't cleared the bank account yet. So I'm just going to leave it for my next reconciliation because it's not there. But also what it's saying is we've flagged two other things where we don't see this transaction in your ledger at all, but it's in the bank statement. So you can just hit create transaction and it'll create the transaction in your ledger directly from here. And then we're also seeing that this Gusto transaction happened on the 31st, not on the 1st, which is what's in your ledger.
Okay,
And
I
so
have a question about this one. So let's see, there this missing one. If you were in QuickBooks and there was something missing, my first inclination would be like, oh, it got booked to the wrong account is, one of the things. Like it had the checking side of it removed and it's sitting in another account. I would guess that Digits is smart enough to notice that that transaction is sitting somewhere else in the system.
That's a good question that I probably don't know like the specific nuance of this, but also I think that gets back to that like difference in workflow where there's less opportunity for that transaction to have made it to a different place in Digits than in QuickBooks. Because you have this bank feed, like a junior employee or someone could like accidentally change the wrong side of the account or something like that and it moves it somewhere else. Because it's being automatically booked, like it's coming, we know what bank account it's coming from. And we know if it got moved and all the above. So there's more smarts to it. It's like probably a higher likelihood that that specific use case doesn't happen. Not going to say it wouldn't.
So the fact that something would be missing here would be more likely because there was some technological glitch and it just never downloaded. And that's why you feel comfortable adding it here.
Correct, which is also why it's more likely you find something in the bank statement that isn't in the ledger. Right. And at that point, you just add the transactions in directly from this reconciliation, and then you have them and it's all there.
Great.
And then at that point, I come in and I click finalize and I get a nice little confetti celebration and everything.
Oh, yay. It was so sad when QuickBooks took the confetti away. Does everybody really remember like, the confetti when you used to? Yeah, I feel like they alienated a lot of accountants when they took the confetti away.
Can I ask a follow-up question to what Nancy asked?
Away.
So in that specific case where it's seeing something on the statement, but saying it's not in the books, is it actually looking at the whole books or is it just looking at that account? Because I think that may be a little bit what you were getting at, Nancy, where it's like, I would think like maybe it's somewhere else, but do you know if is it looking just in that account?
That's actually a very good question that I don't know the answer to off the top of my head. So let me follow up with our engineering team to see exactly how they handle that. I think that it looks across everything, but also, I don't know. So let me get a specific answer to that, Veronica. It's a really good question. So
thank you.
I can
You're probably going to be covering this soon, but I just want to make sure you know that a few questions have come in about can you attach receipts and also can receipts be sent to the custom email address? And if yes, will they be attached to a transaction?
Yep. So I think I showed the receipt attachment flow. So that all is possible, whether it's through the inbox or otherwise. You can click into individual transactions like from the ledger if you wanted to. Or if you see that like, hey, I have a question for my client on all of these, I can just go in and say like, please share more details about this. And we've pre-written that question, or we could say like, attach a receipt for all of these, or something like that. So all of that, and you can just bulk send to your client and they'll get like an email inbox to do it, and you'll see all those receipts. Now, the other thing is you could just go into documents, and again, that email address that they can forward to, they can send receipts to, and we will match to the ledger
Wonderful.
based on that receipt being there. So then it'll basically auto match for you, and you can send anything to this. You can send bank statements, and we'll realize that you want to use this for reconciliations. So we'll actually bring it automatically to reconciliations. You attach a receipt, it'll bring it and match it. You attach a bill, it'll bring it into bill pay and like queue it up to be paid. All the above, so that it'll be handled basically appropriately. Pretty soon you'll be able to send like a contract, and we'll deduce an asset schedule. Or sorry, not an asset schedule, but we'll like calculate out the schedule that should be aligned with the contract, things like that. So the documents area is meant to be more of a smart repository of all of your information that you or your client can forward that to, and it'll get dealt with appropriately in the ledger. And then, yeah, I think that handles both those questions.
Mhm.
So now that we've done our reconciliations, and one quick fun thing on the reconciliations is we had on our call earlier today, we were talking with a tax accountant who was like, I was doing a 12-month cleanup. I literally just drag and dropped all 12 months of bank statements on top of the bank account. And I just watched the little green check marks like check off that all the reconciliations were
Wow.
getting done automatically. So he was
Really?
like, it was really cool. And so it works really well. Obviously, it might have flags and things like that you need to deal with. There's some nuances around how to handle your very first reconciliation, because we don't carry through. If you came over from QuickBooks, we don't carry your reconciliations through. So if you're doing your very first reconciliation, you basically have to do like a catch up reconciliation so that like not all those transactions are in there. But outside of those little nuances, like it usually
How
feels pretty magical.
how
So
well does that conversion from QuickBooks work? Let's say I do have a clean file in there, and
yeah.
I'm like, that's it. I'm doing it. I'm switching to digits.
Mhm.
It's beautiful.
It brings over everything. It won't bring over like receipt attachments or like the attachment files, but all the transactions, all the categories, all that kind of stuff, it brings it over, and we have a bunch of validation systems that make sure it all matches
And
against
Anne
QuickBooks.
is vouching for you over here. She's saying great conversion.
Hot damn, man. Love it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so then from there, we didn't touch on this, but we do have a fully customizable, we call it category manager, but this is your chart of accounts. You can upload a chart of accounts if you want to import categories. You can do this before you link your real-time connections. So if you have like a consistent chart of accounts, you just upload that in, and then when you link your credit cards, it'll use your chart of accounts versus our standard. You can edit this whatever you'd like. We also do have departments and locations. So one thing I want to call out here is you can edit these to make this whatever you want. You could call this like, if you do fund accounting, you can like name this whatever fund you're doing, or if you work
Okay.
with nonprofits and you're doing grant tracking or whatever, you can name this whatever. But I just want to call out, it was intentional to call these departments and locations versus just copying the class nomenclature from the legacy systems. The reason being is that when it's labeled generic, people use it for whatever the hell they want to use it for. And so what ends up happening is like we actually tried to train an AI model on like class data. And because every company and every accounting firm uses classes differently for different things, the data was a complete mess, and it was actually impossible to
Wow.
like build a model on.
That's
So we were much more
fascinating.
intentional on like what we want these to be used for. We will have more, so like projects will come out. We may even launch something specifically for like grant or fund tracking or whatever it may be as well. So we'll learn from the market on like what people want. And again, you can edit this. We're not stopping you from doing that. We don't, but like at the same time, it helps train the model better. But we do have ML models for departments and locations. It's just specific to that company.
Mhm.
So there's no global model that you fall back to. So it makes it be pretty conservative. So if you've like booked a specific vendor to the same department, or a bank account to the same department every single month, it will recognize that and book it to the department. So it does take some of that work off of your plate, and you don't have to manage a bunch of rules to deal with it. So So from there, this gets into the review side of all of this that Nancy, you kind of like touched on before. Before I get into review, any other questions and kind of like the bookkeeping and reconciliation? Does that feel
Yes,
like it
you
makes
haven't
sense?
talked about subledgers yet, AR and AP. How robust are those? If I
Yeah.
remember correctly, one is more robust than the other.
Yeah, so we do have full like AR, AP aging and things like that. And if you use like Bill.com as your bill pay system, all of that flows in. We have a tight partnership with them. If you use Ramp or working with Ramp, we do the same. We'll pull in all the bills, all the AP and stuff gets dealt with appropriately and will reflect appropriately in digits. Now, so all of these subledgers like exist. You can dive into them, view the details in the same way you can anywhere else. The thing you were calling out, Nancy, which we can touch on a little bit later, is we do have native bill pay and invoicing built into digits. And this is built on our own Rails. The reason we built these is that we don't want a lot of people have like bill pay and invoicing on QuickBooks. We don't want that to be a blocker for them to be able to move over to digits.
Got it.
We're not likely going to build native payroll, which is why we've gone deep on all the payroll integrations, just because like I don't want to build, we don't want to build 50 state payroll. That sounds terrible. So we'll let Gusto and other people do that. But bill pay and invoicing, we do have native. And then this is what Nancy was saying is our invoicing system does leave some things to be desired. So don't start here if this is where you're looking at digits. It's not to say it's unusable, but like there's some pretty basic things that literally the team is actively fixing and building. So just for example, like right now you can't tie product lines to a specific category, which is obviously kind of, as a bookkeeper and accountant, is kind of a fundamentally breaking thing.
Yeah.
So in that world, like all of that's coming within the next like short bit of time. So I would just like give that some time to bake. But otherwise, all of this kind of like exists natively in the product.
Recommendation from Donna is that for invoicing, you can use Stripe and then have that integration with digits.
Love it, Donna. And you are right. We do integrate directly with Stripe, and that would allow it'll just auto book all the transactions.
So there's no project feature at this point, Jennifer Adams is asking, but there might be one in the future.
Correct. I don't know exactly when it's going to be built. It might not be this quarter, but I think we're planning on having projects built in the first half of the year. I'd love, Jennifer, to know at what detail you're looking for projects, because obviously like going as far as job costing, like our initial foray, if you will, into projects might not go quite that far. If you need like a job tread, you're probably still going to need job tread.
Yeah,
Just as
so
an
she's
example,
specifically saying nonprofit grants and construction job costing. So those are pretty
yeah.
intense. You're not going to be there yet.
Yeah, so for nonprofits, we've actually seen people use departments and locations pretty successfully as a workaround, where you just have your balance sheet account and you use it as like a clearing account and you book it to a specific department and you name the department towards the grant and you just pay it down basically. So we have seen that work successfully with nonprofits. Construction job costing is a bit more challenging just because you kind of need the time bound component to have it stop showing up in your reports when the project is
There
done.
are
So
some scenarios with nonprofit grants where, and what you just described, Rob, while that will work for simple situations,
1000%.
Megan Tarnow and quite a bunch of other leaders in the nonprofit world strongly recommend this other approach that uses projects. And so to that level, I'm guessing that's not where you're going to start, but eventually you'll get there.
There's a chance, and I'll need to look up Megan's approach. So Nancy, if you could actually just like ping me her
Absolutely. I'll put that on the
name
list.
after this, I can look it up and just make sure we share it with the team. But as of right now, I don't know the exact scope, but it'll probably start more basic and then we'll build out features from there. But
Can I ask
and I
a
just
quick-
want to be I'm sure people can stay over, but just be cognizant of time. Two other quick things I just want to show. And then obviously I can stay over as well. So we don't.
Yeah,
if people
Wanda,
have
is
more
your question
questions.
something that can you stay over or you have to jump
Yeah,
off
no,
right
I'll
in?
stay.
Okay, great.
Okay, cool.
Fantastic.
So I just want to touch on some of these review features and some functionality here. Because obviously, like if AI is booking more things, you're like, okay, great, this is all happening. Like I still need to do my review to like guarantee quality and like verify stuff. So we have some light level review features built into the product. We're actually going to be building way, way more of these. But just as an example, we very easily, I'm just going to look at last year because it's easier, have the ability to review kind of like new vendors and vendors that have been booked to multiple categories just directly from this vendor view here. So vendors and customers is basically like specific pivot on just your vendors and customers, which is important because if a bunch of things are getting auto booked every month, I want to know how the AI is dealing with a new vendor.
Yeah.
And so in this world, if I'm coming in here and I realize like Airtable it is business applications and software, but just for the sake of it, maybe I want this as like, I don't know why I'd want this as travel, but let's just say that it's travel. I can then automatically bulk change this to travel and it'll move all those immediately to travel. And so again, from a cleanup perspective, I can change like a year's worth of data very quick by just bopping through all of these and seeing like, maybe I want all of Apple to be in computer expense instead of having, I don't know why you wouldn't want things in application software, but just I can apply all of that in one place. And you can take bulk actions in a very easy way. You can bulk apply departments, locations, all the above across all of these. And what will happen is like we will learn from those actions. So then when things come in real time later, we'll see how you did it in the past and we'll book it appropriately based on how you prior did it. And then every month, all you have to do is look at the transactions for that month. And so in this year, in January, I didn't have any new vendors, but I did have new vendors in December. And so I can look at those 5 new ones and be like, hey, did this handle this how I expected it to? And then you can also look at like Gusto makes sense. It's booked to multiple categories, but T-Mobile, maybe not. And so I probably need to expand my window to this year to see why. Let's go back 2025. And one thing to note is like how fast I'm navigating through all of this. One thing we focused on is we want every single page to load in under 100 milliseconds.
Wow,
so
that's so nice.
we do
Oh
our
my
best. Obviously, bigger
gosh.
businesses can be slower, but you can view these like here, Calm. This is booked to multiple categories. This is the one I asked my client a question about. So if I click into this, you can see the question that I asked them right here. But now I'm seeing like, oh, this is always booked to this other category. I'm just going to book this all to business applications software. So you can quickly review those things. Now, additional review levers, and this is where some of the speed comes in, is you do have kind of like very quick financials. If I want to view 1 month, 3 month, 6 month, 12-month financials, I can do that. I have a bunch of options if I want to bring month over month or percentage of income, percentage of total, all the above. I can customize those things. But the other thing here is where this lets you quickly understand is like variance analysis on the books and like if something weird happened. So if I'm scrolling through and I'm just looking at airfare, or like maybe lodging is a good example, like this went way down in January. We just tell you why. And it might be fine. Like this might be something that is reasonable. But if I want to then look at like, well, why did it spike in December? What was going on? And I can go view details and just click on December. And then boom, there's my information about December, November, October, December, or September. And every single aspect of digits, including the category, is commentable. So if you had a question of like, hey, this spiked this month. Did you do a team offsite? Like I need clarity so that I know why this spiked. You can ask that here. And again, it'll throw it into their inbox and you can have commentary. So when you go back to this month later, when your client conveniently forgets like why their marketing spiked in 1 month, you'll be like, look, you told me you went on an offsite or you did this or you did that. And you have that commentary right in directly with the books.
That
We
is
also,
fantastic.
last but not least, we won't go into the details. This is what people know the most about us, but we have a whole custom reporting module that just gives you like really nice, it's basically Google Docs for your finances, fully commentable, nice. You can bring it, drag and drop and move around like charts and things like that within the product. And you can like add things to the executive summary if you think your clients want to pay attention to it. You can also do things like adding like file drop zones in. So if you know that they need to send you something or they open a new bank account or something like that, you can just say, hey, drop your file here. It'll throw it into your documents and we'll handle it appropriately as well.
And this goes to the question that I was saving that had come in beforehand was it says, do you have any partners / know of CPA firms that take on digits clients since so many focus on QBO only or zero? It seems like a great option for a basic small business who wants to stay in touch with their numbers in an understandable way.
Mhm.
But I'm wondering if it's really a good option for a growing business and if there would be any issues at tax filing time. And I would argue that since unfortunately most tax pros don't go into the software, unfortunately, they don't know how and they don't care enough and they're not digging deep. And instead, you're sending them financials. This financial package is really ideal because you can say, you know what, tax pro, I think you need to look at these things and create a financial package that you then deliver to them.
Yep. And so in this world, you can fully download trial balances, all the above, directly from the financials page. So all that is possible, like in that specific use case, to the point of like, this might work for smaller businesses and not scaled ones. If I'm honest, that kind of just depends on the industry. And I'm going to leave aside some of the invoicing like things of like someone scaling their business entirely on digits. But if you use like another bill pay or tool or whatever, I'd push back on it like only being for simple businesses. Like we have some companies that, granted they fit who works on digits really well. They're not like construction where you have overly complicated, like super manual processes. Where I was talking about this earlier today, we had a company that was coming in. They work with their accountants. We work closely with their accountant and the individual operator, just because we know them well. And they're a wildly successful AI product. They're growing in like insanity. And like 5 months ago, they came in and their like ramp bank statement was like 50 pages long. And when they dropped it into auto reconciliation, it like broke it because it was like too big. And we're like, okay, we have to figure that out. So we upped it.
Wow.
And then the next month, they sent us a 150 page bank statement. And again, this is just like their growth as a company has been insane. And then it broke reconciliations again. So we fixed it so it could do the 150 page bank statement. The next month, they sent us almost a 400 page bank statement. And this is like literally month over month, like growth, right? And so it broke it again. So anyway, we can now handle many 100 page bank statements specifically because we have to match the growth of the people that are doing their bookkeeping and their accounting on digits. So again, it does end up
Wow.
being a little bit industry specific from like
Mhm.
can it handle growth, where if you have like a gigantic, construction company who needs like a bunch of like deep integrations with JobTread for project tracking and stuff, like can you do the accounting on digits? Absolutely. You can technically do the accounting on digits for every single small business in the US. You can do manual journal entries. You can do all of the things like that you can do in QuickBooks. Where it breaks down is like how efficient is that process?
Right.
Where if you have a bunch of like downstream kind of like integrations, our API just launched in November. So it's like we've already launched with Bill, we've launched with Ramp, we've launched with Gusto. We're building out a bunch of these integrations to more and more partners. And that's only going to accelerate. You saw as we just launched with a bunch of new payroll providers as well. So
Yeah.
that's going to continue to grow and change and
And I
support more
think that
scaled businesses over time.
Donna speaks to this really well. She's mentioned it's not about the size of the client, it's about the type of the client and the
Yep.
industry they're in terms of. So can you give us, aside from construction, can you give us another example of like who is digits not a good fit for? And
It's
I
it
told you I
is
was
a
going to
little
ask
bit
ahead of
hard to get
time.
specific. I use construction because that's probably the biggest pain in the ass
Uh-huh.
of all of them that we probably all know. But you can throw out the other ones where it's like manufacturing is another like good example.
Manufacturing.
You have a bunch of external systems. At the same time, it partially depends on a little bit like, and Donna, if you want to layer in here, feel free, but it partially goes into what manual processes are you doing today? So like
Right.
another thing I would call out is like e-commerce or like a restaurant where it's maybe not a good fit, particularly because like, hey, I might have my POS system automatically writing things into QuickBooks, but I have talked to a bunch of restaurants and accounting firms that do stuff with restaurants and are like, I actually don't have the POS system right in to the ledger. I just pull something at the end of the month and I book the journal
Drives
entry.
me insane when they do that because there are some really good integrations out there with
1,000%.
Shogo
I'm
and
not saying that
Tinder.
behavior
Yeah,
is
I
But
can
it is
speak to
I'm
like
not saying
some of
that
common.
behavior
this.
is correct,
Yeah.
to be clear, but what I mean is like you have to look at your process and it's like,
Yeah.
look, booking that manual journal entry is the same in digits as it is in QuickBooks. Like that shouldn't be a blocker just because it's a restaurant. So anyway, Donna, what were you saying?
Donna,
So
yeah.
some of this, yeah. So like I would say anyone with heavy inventory, heavy manufacturing, wouldn't be, I mean, if they're going to journal entry in the totals at the end of the month, that's awesome. And that's the way to go. If you want to connect all that, don't go with digits. It's not going to work for you. You're going to need something bigger.
Yeah.
Smaller inventory, great. You know, I got tons of like e-commerce companies I'm looking to move in to it. I love the e-commerce content creators, works great with.
And that's because
anyone
the inventory, that's because the inventory in those cases is being managed elsewhere.
Yep, exactly. Sales tax. If you got to deal with a lot of sales tax issues, definitely they don't do sales tax well, so you're going to need a third party for that, or they don't do sales. Do you guys do sales tax at all, Rob?
I'm hopeful that we will in the first half of this year. We actually have signed a deal with a partner. It's going to get integrated. We're just waiting on a couple things.
So yeah, definitely a sales tax for at this moment in time. You're going to definitely need to use a third party, which is not a problem for someone like me who's always used a third party for that.
Right.
Because I do use Stripe for my invoicing. So things like that, you've got it. And really like the number one thing that I think is the attitude and the mental capacity of the client and where they want to go. How they look at their bookkeeping and accounting, what they want to see, because this is really great for clients who want to see runways, who want to see burn rates, who want to see all those types of things. You can dig deeper in digits very easily, where you have to kind of build a path within.
You know, Donna, I'm going to challenge you to write an article for Woodard Report about the kinds of clients that Digit works great with and the kinds of clients that are not as good a fit today. Because that is an article that if you update that article and submit a new version of it next year, it's going to be very different. And I think
it'll be very different in 3 months, I think, right, Rob?
I was going to say, I think the only problem with the article is we're going to update that pretty quickly. Like even with the launch of the payroll systems, it changes who we can support.
I mean, the payroll thing just launched. Like I just found out about it. I'm like, oh, ADP. Okay, if I released the article that I do have written, that would be wrong.
Yeah. Well, I think that this would be a really, really good article, which would be what it is currently good for and what it is not good for, because I think that that's people's biggest question about it.
Yeah. Definitely.
So that's really, really helpful. Again, to Rob's point as the salesperson here, if you're doing a manual process.
Salesperson, Nancy. I'll take it.
Not all salespeople are bad.
Salesperson.
Nothing against salespeople,
right.
but
he's not a salesy person. He's like Chad Hughes from Double, you know? He's like somebody you actually want to hang out with. Anyway, as somebody who's trying to get us to use digits, I understand the point that you're making. Like if you are doing it manually anyway, it's not any like worse to do it manually in digits. But if you have external systems that and use cases that match what Donna is mentioning, digits doesn't do well, then stick with those and just switch some of your other clients that don't have those complexities. But if it's manual over there, you can do it manually in digits as well.
And my challenge and push to just like all the professionals in the industry is if there is someone that we don't integrate with and you want us to integrate with it, we've already been told, highly likely. Like obviously tell us, we want to know, but who you need to tell is the other partner. Because it's like we can go like talk to them all day, but if they don't hear their customers asking for things, it makes it much harder to get prioritized in their roadmap. And so if there is, and like we've already had it happen where someone reached out to us, I can't remember the name of the company, but they reached out to us and they were like, our entire like we have enough people yelling about how they need to integrate into digits that we're going to go build it now.
Wow.
And so like you have power and like how quickly some of these things can happen, because there's only so much we can do like on our own from a partnership perspective.
Now we do have some more questions.
One challenge that I'm asking everyone to do: connect your own. You get your own free account. Connect your own account. Bring everything in. You're likely your worst client, because I know I'm my worst client.
Definitely.
And I'm my most challenging client. And then work from there. That's what Deb and I are doing. We're taking our worst clients, which is us, and we're the most complicated clients we have. And we are doing that. And then I don't know how many times we've connected, brought it all in, then went, oh, this is wrong. Take it out, bring it all back in. I must have done it like 20 times. We are testing everything on it.
That's great.
And it's a great way to learn it. But you're going to have to take the time to learn it too. You
And I
can't
think
just
that's
expect
what
it to work.
Anne Little, that's what you're doing. You put your own books in it and you're testing it out on yourself first, right? You're eating your own dog food, as the phrase goes.
Yes, yes. I still have everything running in QuickBooks too. So I'm just running them side by side.
Ooh,
So I can
nice.
see, I don't know, it's like right now it's kind of like I feel like QuickBooks is the answer key, and then I'm like checking digits work.
Yeah.
I love
And
that.
how's it doing? How's it doing?
Yeah, it's doing good. There are like, it's nice to be able to log into digits and like there's nothing to do, right? Like,
Yeah.
because when you log into QuickBooks, you have tasks that you have to complete to make it all work. And in digits, you don't have to do that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I find some things in the wrong place and I just move them. I do miss that all my people pay me through HoneyBook. That's my processor who I use. And
Okay.
so that's not integrated with digits. And so
Okay.
of course, all those payments come in net of fees,
Yeah.
which is, it's not a huge, it's not hard to fix, but that is a task
But it
that
does
I have to
it does
do
have
in
an
digits.
integration with QBO.
Yes.
Yeah. Got it.
Yes. Yes. So,
Yeah.
and I like having
That's
that
good.
real-time data because I don't make that much money. And so I like to see all of it. I like to see the number, rather than
Yeah.
like just running a clearing account and just
I think you
fixing it
just
at the
said,
end of the
show me
month.
the money is what
Yeah.
you just said.
No, but I love that. We are in touch with like the practice ignitions and the anchors and things like that of the
Mhm.
world. I don't think I've talked with HoneyBook yet.
Mhm.
So obviously feel free to either make an intro or let us like Nancy can give you my email. So like
Yeah.
if you know someone there, if it makes sense, like I'm happy to talk to them to figure out like what it would
Awesome.
look like.
Okay.
To do an integration and all that kind of stuff too. So
We do have some other questions. Do you still have a few more minutes?
fire
I know
away. Let it
I
rip.
warned
I
you that you
can
might
go
have to
towards
stay
the
late
half.
because
I can go towards the half hour if other people are still
okay,
interested.
great. So no recurring invoices as yet. Is that correct?
Correct. That again is one of those like nearer term, like first half of the year things
Probably
that
pretty in demand.
that'll happen. Yeah. We
Yeah.
have to
Okay.
finish a couple other things. We don't need to get into the, behind the scenes, but there's a couple other things we need to do around the project tracking and things like that, or the product categorization stuff and invoicing first, and
Got
then
it.
we can touch on some of those other
Does it
pieces.
handle budgets so that we can do budget versus actual reports?
There's something that's come up a ton with nonprofits specifically. So
But not with
yet.
others, really?
Honestly, it's been the most frequent with nonprofits
Okay,
because
interesting.
there's like regulatory requirements to have
Yeah.
things like that for those industries. And so it just ends up being necessary. That's less the case. I think we can all agree that every business should have a budget.
Yeah.
It's just whether or not every business is willing to pay for the creation and management of a budget,
Yes.
which most don't. And so we probably are not going to be like automating budgeting this year.
Okay.
Now, will you be able to upload a budget this year? Likely. So
Okay.
then if you have one, you could upload it, but we probably won't do budget automation for a bit.
All right.
If you listen to the AI native podcast,
Yeah,
that we actually
Casey.
just spun out, we just announced that Casey Johnson, we've been working with her on it for a while. We
I was
spun
at
it
the
out
first
into,
one.
You were.
Yeah.
And we spun that out into its own nonprofit, actually. But one of the episodes in that was with Dan Vornikoff and Craig Walker, who Dan worked at Intuit, launched QBO initially at Intuit, and Craig, who's now Digits head of product, was the 16-year CTO of Xero. And so they did a podcast with Jeff, who's our CEO, and talked about the kind of like the eras of accounting. And I can't remember what I was telling this story.
We were talking about budgets and how everybody should have
I
a
remember. So
budget.
Jeff had talked about like they asked like what's the one thing you want to build, and Jeff talked about like budget automation, because if we could automate a bunch of those things that go into the creation of a budget, like
think
every
about
business
how
owner could
many small
theoretically have
businesses
one.
you would be able to help.
Exactly. And so that was kind of like the origin of
Yeah.
his thinking there, which would be super interesting.
Yeah.
But again, like it's probably not in a this year roadmap. We're going to
Right.
focus on like rounding out kind of like the CAS feature set, if you will. So we'll focus a lot more on like accruals and, you know, some small business multi-entity things and stuff like that. Like there's
Are you
some
guys
things we're kind
working
of like
with
thinking about.
Accruer from FinOptimal?
So I know them. If I'm honest, we're going to build that directly into our product
Okay.
versus doing
Got it.
integration. Obviously, if he wants to do an integration, by all means. But yeah, well,
Yeah,
that's
you
probably
guys are going to
something we're
build
going
that
to
into
handle
it.
natively. Yeah.
Another question is a lot of us use client portals like Double, formerly Keeper.
Yep.
What are the client communication capabilities for questions, et cetera? By the way, I was on a meeting with Double earlier and I mentioned that I was going to be seeing you today, and they were like, oh my God, everybody's so excited about digits. We're definitely going to have an integration with them coming soon.
Yeah,
That is
we're in
something
touch
they're
with Ben.
working
We've
on.
known Ben for a long, long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're in touch with Ben and figuring out kind of like the right ways to work together. Because
Mhm.
like I think that it's not an answer of if there, it's more of a matter of when and how and like
Yeah.
where the right because like I think
You
as
can draw that line in a lot of different places, right?
that's kind of what I mean is like you know, and then there's the financial sense of the world. Like there's a bunch of these different tools that
Mhm.
are automating workflows in different ways, and where we have to find the balance, like working closely with Ben, and this might be in partnership with Double and partners as well, is like where is the overlap? Where's the
Yeah.
pieces where you want to keep using Double for it and where do you use digits for it? Because if I'm honest, and I think they would say the same thing, there are some areas of uncomfortable overlap
Yeah.
between
Oh,
the two products,
absolutely.
right?
Wait, I mean, which is Veronica's question here. You know, she's
Exactly.
like,
So if we're like being realistic about it, it's like will for a certain type of like business or practice or like accountant, will you be able to do a lot of that stuff like directly on digits? Probably.
yeah.
But the thing is like there's a lot of things that they do that we're probably not going to do, like
Mhm.
multi-ledger management. So there's a lot of firms that are going to do everything on digits, and we actually want to optimize for as many firms who are 100% on digits as possible.
Mhm.
That's like
Mhm.
where we want to optimize for. But like there's a bunch of firms that like for whatever reason can't. And so they're going to have clients on Zero and QuickBooks and digits, and like Double is going to be able to manage your workflows across all of those. And like
Yeah.
we're not going to touch that. So like there's reasons that like the integration should exist. We just will have to work with them on exactly like where the value comes in, because there's the other part which is just like client friction of like I've already introduced my client to this thing. I don't want to rip it out and like introduce them something else. And so, you know, what makes sense and where. But
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway.
Can a client link to two accountants like they do in QuickBooks Online so that both the bookkeeper and the CPA have access?
Yes and no. We're working through some of the nuances of this. So like we have the idea of like what we call an affiliate, which is basically like I'm the accounting firm of this company. And like you as the accounting firm can like add your client, whatever it may be. Now the client can add as many admins and users as they want on their end into the account. So like, can they do that? Yes. Do we have like an official designation in the product where I'm saying like I'm adding my tax accountant and it flags them like this is your tax accountant? No. So the short answer is yes. The longer answer is there's probably work to be done to make it more clear
Mhm.
around
Mhm.
like who any individual person in the ledger is at any
Yeah.
given time.
But if I wanted to be on, if I were Anne's tax pro and
Yep.
she's, you know,
You can
adds
both
me
be
to
in
her
the you can
system, no
both be in the
problem.
product. Yeah, yeah.
Great. And I'd be able to pull whatever I need. But if you want to restrict them, because that's one of the things that is is well, actually two different things. You know, in QuickBooks, one of them is that there are two accountant user slots, which means we get to connect it to our accountant dashboard,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Which is pretty amazing. And yes, no, that's how it would be in digits.
Well, that's kind of how it is with digits. I think the
Okay.
thing that we're talking about though is the
The roles.
addition of the second like accounting firm, right?
Yeah,
Where it's like
exactly.
right now, if you are already their accounting firm, they'll be in your dashboard. But to add the tax firm, I don't think you can add like another accounting firm where then it shows up in the
That
other
is
accounting
something
firm's
that you're
dashboard as well.
definitely going to want to figure out
Yeah, so
because that's
it's
going
like
to
on
be a
our
big, all right,
yeah,
that is on your
100%.
list.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, all right. Let me see. Then we also
We
have,
have-
oh, what's the cost? We haven't even talked about cost. I'm normally so good about bringing that up early on because
No, you're good. And this is one of the things that actually is interesting to talk about for this group because like if you just go to our pricing page, like that is the cost for like operators of businesses to come in and use it. So we have basically I'm going to just assume the essentials plan hasn't launched yet, but it will in the next like 2 weeks. So just assume that it exists.
all right.
It's like we basically have two plans. We have the core plan and the essentials plan. And that's like if a business owner comes to Digits and wants to use it, like that's what they get access to. Now,
Okay.
as an accounting firm, through our partner program, you get access to partner specific tiers. And so this is where you can sign your client up for those core and essentials tiers, sure. But we also then have firm specific tiers that have
Okay.
to be paid for by your firm because they're much more like accountant specific tools. So
Mhm.
just as an example, you can use a low volume plan, which is only $10 a month, but it's specifically for like holding companies where they have Nancy will remember this conversation where it's like they have less than 250 transactions a year, roughly. And it's not a lot of work, but you just want everything to be there when you're ready for it. And so
Which
you
is
can
much more
go
like write-up
like a
software like we
write-up
were talking
client.
about earlier.
And then we have like a one above that, which we call like annual tax write-up. It's a little bit more expensive. It's not for holding companies, but it's like whatever volume, but it's $25 a month, and then you link everything in. You can do your cleanups and everything in there. The limitations here that you can't invite your client into this almost at all. You can to gather context. So if you have like questions about a transaction or you need them to send you a document, you can invite them and they can add those things, but they don't see anything else. And
It
then we have
really is write-up software. Yeah.
exactly. So then we have like a last plan, which is basically like the folks who used it for write-ups, they're like, well, I don't want to download the financials and send them an email. And so we're like, well, for $10 more a month, you can just invite them to see only the financials tab only.
Nice.
So then you can
Nice.
still invite them in and they see that.
That's
1099
great. So that's
tracking,
$35 a month.
that's $35 a month. So then it kind of like gives you, and this is also the part that is like interesting as like a profession is a lot of us probably have clients that we send them the financials, but they don't look at it, or they
Yeah.
like literally never log into the ledger. And some of those like partner specific SKUs have actually worked well for those because it can create you a bridge into advisory later. Where it's like our core SKU is for like you have this client that is like pretty in the books. They benefit from the dashboarding, the reporting, the nice ways to visualize the data because it gives you a canvas to talk to your clients in a more robust way than you did before, right?
Yeah.
But that's not the case for every client, but you might want to build your clients into those groups. And so if you give them like a taste, through kind of like, hey, because you can't go to your client and be like, I want you to use this new ledger. It makes me more efficient. Like they could give a shit about how efficient you are. You're like, oh, so I can pay you less money? Cool.
Yeah.
I was like, no, that's not what I mean. So it's like you kind of have to shift how you talk about this, where it's like, you can get them on Digits, use them for the write-up, use them for just like, monthly financials in the 35 SKU, but then you can start to like say, like, look at these, prettier dashboards and like other things you can get if we move you towards one of these more like expensive situations or whatever it may be. And then it gives you the opportunity to kind of like raise their price, do more advisory types of things. And there's a lot more to come on all that. We don't need to unpack the advisory box right now, but yeah, anyway. That's kind of high level.
Wanda, I don't know if you wanted me to read your question from chat or if you wanted to, I know earlier you had a question that you were unmuting for, that you're welcome to if you want to.
Actually, when I unmuted, that was a different question I had.
Oh,
So
that was a different question.
if
Go
I
ahead
can
and
ask
ask that
one
now.
real quick.
You can ask as many questions as you want.
Fire away, Wanda.
I don't want to take too much time, but because you might have said it and I didn't hear because there was a point when my volume just wasn't good enough. But if you can scan a receipt
Mhm.
and it attaches to a transaction, like for example, will the AI read the receipt? So like sometimes I use the same vendor for subcontracting labor, but then sometimes I buy products from them. So I want to differentiate, so they go to two different accounts on my books. And you'd see that on the invoice. Would the AI like detect that and code it appropriately?
I probably have more follow-up questions to get into the specific use case where it's like, does the transaction exist in the account first, or is the receipt the like creation of the transaction, right? Like basically, is it a chicken and egg scenario of
Right.
which one comes first, right? Because like if the payment exists already and we're just matching it to the transaction, it doesn't really matter what's on the receipt as much because we're just matching it to however you've categorized the specific vendor for the transaction. But if you're leveraging the receipt to be the origin of the transaction versus like your bank account, and then you're needing to create a transaction from that receipt, right now that is not how it functions.
Okay.
So like we wouldn't it will eventually, to be clear, but like right now it won't read the contents of the receipt to say like, hey, just as an example, you went to Home Depot and you bought like 4 rakes and like 3 rulers. The rulers go to this one and the rakes go to this one because that's what I've seen historically you handle from a Home Depot perspective. It's not going to do that. It won't split that transaction or handle that appropriately in that way. It's more a matching engine for like receipt goes to this transaction.
Because that is something that QuickBooks handles pretty well.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so, and that part I know a little bit less about. Like we're pretty early on in our receipt journey, if you will.
Well,
You can
have
attach
fun on that
receipts,
journey.
you can match receipts, you can do a bunch of stuff like that. At the end of the day, like we don't want you to need Dext or HubDoc or any one of these other like external tools. And for the most part, that's covered outside of some very specific use cases. Like very rarely do we run into folks who like still actually need those tools when you use digits. Usually you can just cancel the subscription. So
Got it. Is there 1099 tracking? And if a new vendor is used, will we be alerted so we can get a W-9?
So
which is something that Double does. The reason I was meeting with
really
them
well.
earlier is that I'm just about to do a webinar with them
Yeah.
next week, I think, or
Awesome.
yeah, on exactly that topic.
Yeah. So technically, yes, we do. But it's one of the areas that is not robust.
Okay.
So basically it needs like a lot of love, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I want you to
like
be
it
honest.
does work. It basically like what it will do is try and automatically pull. I can show you what it looks like real quick. And if you have digits, obviously you know, but or have looked, but in the vendor tab, there is. How did it get removed? What? There's a chance because it's not robust, they just removed it.
Really?
I need to figure out
You
what
can
happened
follow
here.
up with us on that
Anyway,
one.
there used to be a
will.
little toggle here that said like taxes or review, and you could click on taxes. Oh, here we go. Show tax status. Yeah, here we go. Okay. Wow, that moved. I didn't see that. Where we'll try and automate. It doesn't work on the demo account, but we'll try and automatically pull like the entity type, and then we'll pull in like how much qualified expenses there are for any given vendor, so you can know whether or not you actually need a W-9 or not. We will not automate the like collection of the W-9, and this is what I mean. Is like it
So
needs a
that
lot.
would be a great, when you're doing the Keeper integration, that line is going to be drawn on on that side of it because that's something. I mean, Double.
1,000%. So basically it's like, does something exist for 1099s? Absolutely. Is it helpful? Probably. But are there other tools that probably do it a little bit better that you may already have? Yeah. So if you use Double, it's like you should probably just use what they use for now until we put some love.
And Veronica wants to know, is signing up for the partner program the best way to get started trying out digits for ourselves? Do you need a client connected to start doing that? No. Okay, wonderful.
So you go to, I must have clicked on something. We'll just go, you go to digits.com and you go to accountants and partner with us. You type in your email and click become a partner. This is basically just like, we have some larger firm specific things. This will like send you to like a quick, how many clients do you have? Like, what are you looking for? Whatever, you fill that out and then it'll basically send you into start using the product at that point, once you do that. And then what will happen is
can you go back to the pricing page? You were actually on it just for a second.
Yeah, so this is that essentials plan. That's the core that I was talking about. So this will be live in a couple weeks, and then, but this doesn't touch on any of the partner specific plans. You got to dig for those. We don't really want operators knowing that you could like have the option to pay less for it. I don't think you want them to know that either. So
no, that's why QB Ledger also is not
hidden.
advertised. Yeah.
But in this world, you come in here, you can become a partner. You do have to like connect. I think you still have to connect a credit card in the flow, but like unless you add a client, there's a little button in the top right. I can't show you, but it's hard to find. It just says like skip this step. And you can like just end on an empty dashboard and you can connect your firm for free. And so that's fine. You just choose firm free books, you connect it, and then everyone has access to the demo client as well. So that's what I've been playing around in. You just click launch demo client and you'll get your own demo client, and you can flip between like your accounting firm and your demo firm. And you can play around with all the data. You can delete everything in here, like literally whatever you want to do, you can play around with it because you just click reset and it'll reset all of it back to what it was before. So it doesn't matter. You just can't add like real-time bank connections or anything into it. So the data in there, I mean, one thing we totally didn't talk about, but it's kind of cool, is you can just like import journal entries or bank transactions as well. So it's like if you're doing a cleanup and it only, let's say your bank only brings in like 3 months of data or 6 months of data, you're like, but I need 12. You can just go get the PDF bank statements, drag and drop them on here, and we'll extract the bank statements and just book the transactions automatically for you too. So it's like if you want to play around with that as it relates to like cleanups and other things, like you certainly can. So.
Well, we got through all the questions. We did it. Good job. Yay! And we've still got a few people left on the call, which is amazing. Everybody else,
Yeah,
I'm sure,
thank you
is gonna
everyone
come
for
back
sticking
in.
around. It was super good to see some of your faces and all the above. So obviously, if people have additional questions, Nancy's a great resource. You know who's an incredible resource is actually Donna, who's on this call. She's used Digits a ton. So obviously, feel free to chat with her.
Rob, can you put a link to the partner sign up
Yeah,
page in our
I'll
chat?
do it right now.
That would be
Yeah.
great. Yeah, Donna, now we all know that she's the one when you've got questions about digits, just tag her in circle.
Sorry, Donna.
She's our woman.
Thanks. Thank you guys. Thanks. We have a YouTube channel too called Debbie and Donna Do Digits. We have some videos on there right now. We're getting ready to launch a bunch more on doing different they're very short videos, 2 to 3 minutes, maybe, could be a little bit more, but just very small micro bursts into the product. And now I got to do one about ADP since I just found out about it.
Well,
So
Donna, would you mind when the recording of this goes up in the Circle community, would you mind making sure to link to that resource in the comments of that? Because that way everybody who watches this video in the community will go watch your videos next. You know, they'll be like, here's.
Yeah,
And
no
I'm telling you, I really want you to write that Woodard Report article. I think that would be fantastic.
Sure. They got a bunch of my articles in there. I'm waiting for them to publish.
Yeah.
It'll just be it'll be a
Maybe
speed run on our
I'll
end.
collaborate with you, Rob. We'll collaborate on that
please.
one.
Happy to.
I think that would be better.
And if anyone has any questions or needs, like ultimately, like the biggest thing on our end is how do we kind of like help everyone help each other. There's only so many of these. I'll go on as many of these as I can, especially if Nancy's hosting them, to try and help bring people along. But at the end of the day, we want to just make sure people are unblocked, getting their questions answered, and knowing kind of like what you get out of the product, but also what you need it to do that it's not doing, so that we can adequately prioritize on the back end the stuff that we need to build that maybe doesn't exist yet.
And
now,
we've got a small team of people in Ask a CPA that are all digits curious and wanting to put together a group to test it out together. So
I love it.
You know,
so if that happens and you have questions, obviously, like Nancy, you know how to get in touch. Let's figure out a way to make it easy for you to get in touch with us in the right ways, all the above. But if for some reason we ever feel distant, you're like, I can't get in touch with Digits, I'm hopeful that doesn't happen. We do have a bunch of ways to get in touch with us, our help at email address, and y'all can get my email address pretty quickly, but you know, please use that in a reserved nature. My inbox is already very large. But we want to make sure that everyone feels supported and has everything they need to use the product. And at the end of the day, what's going to be interesting, and we've already found interesting, that's just to put on people's radar, is like there are going to be things that are done differently in Digits, and some of that is intentional. So like we've had a lot of accountants come in and be like, I want rules back. And I'm like, we're not going to build rules. I'm really sorry. That's just like
the whole
literally a fundamentally different architecture problem. Like the only reason rules exist is because they're making
It
you
can't
be the
do
machine
this.
learning and not their product, right? So, but it's like things like that where it's like there's some feedback we get that I'll just be honest with you. It's like, hey, we're never going to build that. Like, and this
Yeah.
is why, right? But there's some things where it's like, no, this is like a fundamental thing for accounting, which I'm hopeful we're through a lot of those things outside of some of the invoicing stuff we talked about. So hopefully a lot of the accounting can actually be done in the product pretty successfully, but we'll work through a bunch of those things as they come. So.
Well, this has been absolutely wonderful. I'm so grateful to. Do you mind taking us out with your song again?
That's incredible, actually. Let me pull it up. There we go. We'll play ourselves out here.
You
Share
gotta share your
music,
sound.
computer audio, share.
Journal entries write themselves. No more clutter on the shelf. Reconciliation smooth and clean.
Nice to meet everybody. This was a ton of fun.
Thanks for coming, Rob. That was wonderful.
Compliance shining
We
bright.
appreciate
Every
you.
ledger crystal clear. Nothing left to double check here. Without the grind. Insight served up right on time. Does the math. We're already moving past.
Oh man, Wanda says she's already signed up. She just signed up. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Rob. Jessica says it.
Let the system set me free.
You're fabulous. Great.
This was very fun. Do you need me to stick around longer?
No, unless you
Okay,
want to keep hanging out.
I remember in your email it was like stay on after
Yeah,
for
this
people. I
was
just
it.
wanted to make sure.
It was the you
Okay.
might need to stay late because we might have lots of questions for you, and you stayed even longer than.
Yeah, no, this is great. Oh, I am
It's
6
perfect.
minutes late for another thing though.
All right, go.
But Nancy,
off.
this was so fun. Thank you for having me, and I like let me know how I can be helpful. Happy to do whatever.
Fabulous. You were so full. This was just exactly what I was hoping for. Thank you, Rob.
So happy to
All
hear.
right.
Good to see you, Nancy. Take care.
Take care, everyone.